Coaches across the country used the Coachpad this past season to be more efficient with their scout card prep on the weekends as well as when out on the practice field working with their scout teams. Whether you're a coach using a computer program to create cards or drawing them by hand, the Coachpad is for you. Never printing paper or stuffing a binder, clearly seeing scout cards outdoors in the bright sun, and using the coach pad on game days, syncing diagrams from the press box to the sideline were some of the features coaches enjoyed this season. This offseason, get your coach pad at thecoachpad.com to get your program ready for next season. Thecoachpad.com.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe as usual. It will either be over 5,000 subscribers or there by the point this video posts or the audio posts on various podcast apps. Today we have the guards and centers coach at Hanna High School in South Carolina, Coach James Quinn. Coach, how are you doing?
Good. Glad to be here.
I appreciate you coming on, Coach, because we kind of went back and forth, I think, last year, and I don't even remember, what was it, like the late spring. And they were like, okay, we'll do this December, January. So it's good to finally get you on. If anybody doesn't follow Coach, make sure you follow Coach on Twitter because he does post some good like individual stuff, drill wise and various other things. But before we get to any of that, how did you end up as the guards and centers coach at TL Hanna?
Well, this is my 33rd year coaching. Mostly that coaching up until 2013 has been on defense. At a lot of small schools. I wanted to try larger schools. So I applied for a job at Tucker High School in Atlanta as an offensive line coach, and got that job. And after 3 years, retired and moved to South Carolina. And ended up with the guards and centers job there for Jason Toad at TL Hanna.
Now, what was that kind of transition like for you from being a primarily defensive coach throughout your career to an O-line coach, especially someone who's been around the wing T and been involved in the wing T in one way or another over the past 30 years?
Well, it's kind of strange because mostly I've been on defense, like I said, but mostly it's been in the secondary, outside linebackers. But had a desire to go to the offense and learn the offense after, I guess, 22 years of defense. And the coach that I was working for let me do the tight ends, and then I did the running backs, and then eventually went and did the offensive line at Tucker. I don't think it's a big change. Coaching is coaching. If it's kind of like teaching. If you can teach, you can coach. And if you understand football, which I think being on defense has really helped me offensively, knowing what defenses are going to do and understanding what they're trying to do to you, I think it's really helped me as an offensive line coach.
Okay. And I mean, especially with understanding the coverages and linebacker play, do you think that's probably was more beneficial than maybe being a longtime D-line coach?
Yeah, I was when I was running backs coach, I was also passing game coordinator, and being able to understand coverages and linebacker play, that helped there. But as just the offensive guards and centers coach, knowing defensive techniques, being a former defense coordinator, I understand what a three front, odd front, bear front, all those fronts, and what teams want to try to do with their defensive line. So that has also helped me. I don't get into as an offensive line coach, I don't get into much about secondary anymore. And linebacker stunts, I have to, worry about that. But, and that's been somewhat of a challenge, but feel as though it's really helped me defense and really helped me offensively. And I encourage anybody to coach both sides of the ball, or after you've been doing one side of the ball, try to, if you have aspirations of being a head coach or whatever, you need to learn both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of coaches who just learn one side of the ball. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, you see, especially at the high school level, when it's not always easy to get quality assistants or experienced assistants, especially nowadays. I think you kind of see some deficiencies there when people haven't worked both sides of the ball. Whereas I college, you're able to hire a little bit more specialized people. High schools, depending on your state, I think it can sometimes be a struggle if you don't really know both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that's true. Especially in defense, you need to know what the offense is trying to do. I always agree with coaches is if you're a defensive coach, go to offensive coaching clinics. If you're an offensive coach, go to defensive coaching clinics. Unless you're a new coach and it's where you can get good drills from people. I remember the best offensive line coach I went to see was Paul Alexander, who helped me tremendously, who was old Cincinnati NFL coach, and helped me tremendously on pass block. And I use his techniques for guards and centers, especially pass blocking. And he made it so simple and made it so easy. And where my kids, I feel like we do a good job of pass blocking and getting things like that from him has really helped me.
Good. Now, I mean, you've mentioned your wing T coach, a long time involved in one way or another, either whether you're on staffs that run the wing T or as you kind of made the transition to offense, being a wing T coach. I mean, why is your focus been on becoming a wing T offensive line coach instead of saying some spread line coach who pass sets 90% of the time, or even just like a spread coach in general? Why is the wing T what you guys do, what you like to coach? Why the wing T?
Wing T people kind of stick together, and when I was trying to after my kids had graduated from school, I had them in a really good school. After they graduated, I wanted to expand out and go to, we were a small AAA school. We were limited in talent. And I wanted to expand out in some of the larger schools in Georgia, some of the 7A schools. And every time I applied for a job, well, they were looking for maybe a younger coach that was a secondary coach, or maybe a younger coach that was a running back coach. So I had to do something that would fit for me. And I was lucky enough to find a job at Tucker High School with Brian Lamar there, and he took me on, and usually there's two offensive line coaches, so he had room there, and that's how I got into the offensive line.
And before we get to the O-line play, like, why do you think? I personally think every offense should have two O-line coaches, whether it's a primary and assistant, or splitting it up, centers, guards, tackles, however you want to split it up. But why? I mean, it's a lot. I would say it's probably a lot more prevalent with wing T's. Why do you think it is so beneficial, especially for the wing T, to have two O-line coaches?
Well, our offense, our practice is totally different from the tackle tight end practice. In a gap blocking scheme, okay, where you're pulling guards, it is our practice is totally different. They spend a lot of time on gap down back, on technique, on angles, on head placement, on correct footwork. And we do too, but we're not doing that near as much as they are. And if you have one person, and actually the first year that I was coaching in 2017, I had to take the whole line like 2 games into the season because our tackles tight ends coach had to resign. So I was doing the whole offensive line, which was really difficult. But it feels like you're more consistent on verbiage, but when you have two people that can work together, our tackles tight end coach is a great coach. He goes and does his thing, and then I do my thing, and we just need to be able to work. Mostly, it's on checks and where we have to check out of things, or situations where it's a weird front we're having to go against, and our kids have to do checks.
How much of the practice would you say you two spend actually together?
Well, I would say individually, none.
Okay.
I mean, maybe 5 minutes a week. We do a little bit of pass blocking, but what we do is we'll do individual, and then we'll do a group setting. And a lot of times during the group setting, we with 120 kids, we'll have 60 kids on offense. So we'll have a separate JV group, and then we'll have a varsity group. So the times that I'm with the varsity, he's with the JV, and when I'm with the JV, he's with the varsity. So the only time we spend together is team. And I don't have to worry about his guys, and he usually doesn't have to worry about mine. So we're never, unless there's a weird check or where they have to replace a tackle guard has to replace each other, we're hardly ever communicating.
Okay. Now, I mean, obviously, transitioning there, that's kind of how you've done. Has that how you've always, since you've been an O-line coach or been with wing T staffs, how that's always been with you have two coaches, but they're always apart, or have you been with staffs where they're still together?
Yeah.
How's that always?
Well, with the younger, less experienced kids, we'll have to work together more. Okay, because of what we call fold blocks, things like that. We'll have to work together. We'll probably this year we lost our both starting both right tackles, our both right guards, our center, our left tackle, our left guard, and our starting tight ends. So we lost everybody this year. So next year, we probably will have to spend 5 to 10 minutes every day making sure that our kids know where the guards and where the tackles are going to fit on each other whenever we're doing combination blocks. So with more experienced kids, the less you have to spend together, the better you can get on skills. With less experienced kids, I remember 2 years ago, we had to work all spring together. So it usually goes with experience.
Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is your indy, because obviously, like, that's kind of how I think I said this before we started. I don't know how I started following you on Twitter. I really don't. I don't know if it's because I saw somebody retweeted or like that I know that followed your drills, or if it just popped up because the weird Twitter algorithm, whatever that is, and all that lovely stuff.
Yeah.
I just literally sat like several days just staring at your stuff, because it's obviously very methodical. It is very step by step. It's progression based. Obviously you still do the old shoulder blocking. I'm gonna start with this. Especially with you looking to next year with having a very young group and losing the amount of seniors you're losing, where do you start? Like, what is your focal starting point? Because like I said, I know, like I said, you've been fortunate to have some experience, but you're going younger, and you do a lot of good things and a lot of things you got to focus on to get technique right. Where do you start?
All right. So when I took the offensive line coaching job at Tucker, the guy that I work with now was the offensive line coach with me in Georgia. I was the running back coach. He's the offensive line coach. And I said, listen, I'm going to have a chance to go into Atlanta, have this great job. or have an opportunity to get this great job, I need you to help me with offensive line stuff. So he helped me, and then I started looking for other information about wing T blocking. So I got Paul Connor. I don't know if you know his name. Tom Herman. Their wing T shoulder skill blocking coaches. Both of them are retired now, and so I got DVDs and got their progressions on installs, and so I've been doing mostly what I learned from them, okay, and then learning as I go. But so last spring I was like, that was really difficult to get all that information. If I would have had somebody that I could have watched and showed me how to do this, then I would have, of course, been very appreciative. So I had some kids that were injured, so I got them to start filming the practices. And so that's why I wanted to do it and be able to give back. Like I talked to somebody the other day, and he said it was his first year doing offensive line. He's the head coach, but he'd never done it. And he said he used everything that we had done. So, and apparently it was good for somebody. And if it was good for one person, then that's great, because it's not, if you go to a clinic, it's not going to be talked about very much. Even if you do have a wing T guy, it's usually the head coach or offensive coordinator that's just showing the plays. And they're not talking about the offensive line. You can barely find any offensive line shoulder skills and that. And I, like I said, I didn't do it for, anything else but to try to help people. And so, and that's those videos is what we do every day. And I'll be able to try to go through that and explain those things. But if you go back, you'll probably be able to see, oh, okay, this is what he's talking about when he does the shoulder skills. This is what he. But I got all that from Paul Connor, and there's a few other coaches in Georgia that we would go to and listen to that were good offensive line coaches. But it's hard to find. It's hard to find. In Dublin, they have Dublin, Georgia, they have the Southeast Wing T Clinic, and they do a good job of doing with Wing T too.
Yeah, I've heard him speak out of Glacier before.
Roger Holmes.
Yep.
Roger Holmes. Yeah.
And then Tom Herman, I went to the National Wing T Clinic. I've been there, twice now? And I've heard Tom speak as well. I'll ask you this, and I mean, I sort of know the answer already because I've had some experience in the wing T. Why do you prefer shoulder blocking over hands? Why is that your personal preference over how you teach? Because again, like you kind of said, it's not heavily talked about. It's not easy to find anything on. Let's just be honest. Like unless you talk to Paul Connor, Roger Holmes, Tom Herman, who've done it at some point or are currently doing it. There isn't much information out there. There's a couple bad YouTube videos where it'll briefly go over it. But why is that your preference? Especially, I mean, when you have 120 kids on your roster, it's not like you're some undersized school with 30 kids.
Right. Well, that's what our head coach wants us to shoulder block. So that Jeff Herring, who is the head coach at Camden High School, this is his offense. He won state championship at Oconee County in Georgia. He's won 3 state championships at Camden, state championship at Grayson High School, and went to the Final Four this last year, running the same offense, shoulder blocking. And so, there's a lot of coaches under his tree that still believe in shoulder blocking. But this is what I kind of believe. If you're a good offensive lineman, it doesn't matter if you use hands or shoulder block. And I think you'll be fine either way. If you're a bad offensive lineman, it doesn't matter if you're going to use shoulder blocking or hands. It's what the coach feels most comfortable teaching, and that's what I feel most comfortable teaching, and what the head coach of course wants. And I don't think it's very hard to teach. I think it keeps your offensive linemen at a lower level. We want to run the ball. We ran for 4,400 yards this year. And our offensive linemen, even though we have 120 kids in our school, our center weighed around 240 pounds, our right guard weighed about 180, and our left guard weighed 200. So it wasn't like we're really big kids. Our right tackle is about 235. Our left tackle is pretty big. He's about 280. But, I feel like a lot of tackles, tight ends coaches go more towards the hands concepts. If they have good offensive tackles, it's easier for them to teach hands. But like I said, I'm not that experienced offensive line coach, so I just kind of go with what I feel like I've learned the best.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I mean, again, kind of to your point, you have to be coach what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it does nobody no good. After you get done with stances, what is the first drill you're going to do? Like, what
we're going to work on what we call shoulder skills.
Okay.
So we're going to put our kids in a 6-point stance, okay, and we'll do a 6-point fit, and so we'll have the kids down, and we'll have, and you can see on the videos, we'll fit on the bag where our fist is on our chest, and we are fitted in, and our arms are parallel, and our neck is squeezing the bag. So another reason a lot of people do say that they like shoulder block, that use shoulder blocks, it keeps your head out of the game, because we don't use our head with our hands. We're always shoulder blocking. So we're going to fit a 6-point fit with both arms, and we try to get the kids to help coach arms parallel at a 90-degree angle, and then our neck squeezing the bag, just like we would squeeze the body of whoever we're blocking. And then we'll do a fit with the right shoulder, fit with the left shoulder, and then we'll go with the 6-point hits, where we'll take our arms, I'll call out set, before they fit the bag, and then they'll have their arms back and they'll attack the bag and get into that fit arm position. And they'll do that with the right arm, do that with the left arm, and then we do something where we go a little bit quicker out of the 6-point stance. We'll go right, left, right, and then a left, right, left.
Okay.
And after that, which, that takes about almost, I would say, probably 3 weeks to get out of that. We'll go into where we'll have our right knee down and our right arm back. So we'll be kind of in a stance where our knees down, and we're on our left foot, and we'll attack the bag, and then we'll start driving those bags.
Okay. No, yeah, I'm just kind of just scrolling up just so for my notes purposes through your Twitter, and it's literally I think the left drill, then it's your dry drills, your knee drills. Like I said, I mean, you have it in pretty same order as you're talking. And I mean, how do I want to word this? You said it takes 3 weeks there to progress. Now, obviously, you're doing other drills besides that for 3 straight weeks.
Yeah. So,
but like with that progression, how does it? How I want to phrase this? Instead of 3 full weeks, does it depend on the group of kids, or is it usually pretty consistent on how long it takes for them to develop those skills? Like this year, when you had a more experienced group, did you get out of it a little quicker, or so forth?
So in those videos, we divided 120 kids up into 2 teams.
Mhm.
Okay, and so one day, one team would be on offense, and the other team would be on defense, and so a lot of those kids you're actually seeing in those drills are defensive players and JV players. We go 10 through 12. And a lot of those kids that you see in those drills, they never even played in a varsity game. There's a couple of them that were varsity starters that I tried to get in there. But so that's why the progression takes so long.
Okay.
On that. And we start practice in March. We have open season in March in South Carolina where you can practice and without pads. And then during the school day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our high school league does not control anything you do during the school day. So we have helmets on. We don't go in shoulder pads. We do if we need to during the season, but we'll go in helmets. So we're getting, and we have our kids in there from 8:10 to 10 o'clock, or 10. Actually, they leave about 10, so we can practice them up to about 9:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll work out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays we'll start practicing in March on that. So that most of the drills that you're watching are March, April, May, which is in school, and so it's very beginning, very basic drills.
Okay.
That we have.
One of the other things I want to hit on that I really like that you were doing, just especially with a lot of your drills, you would have them take. It's not necessarily bird dog, but sort of bird dog. You'll have them take a step, come back, take a step or 2 steps again, and then you'll have them just fully run through it. What now? It's not full bird dogging, but what is the I just lost the train of thought on the word. Thought process for doing that. In all of your very step oriented and detailed work there.
Yeah. All of our rules really go. All of our Delaware wing tee rules go. If your rule is on block, then we need to take an on step to be able to do that. So I teach you kids from there. And what I do is I'll have early in March, I'll blow 4 whistles. That they'll get in a stance. I'll tell them down, and they'll get in a stance. The first whistle, they'll work their steps. The second whistle, and I make sure that they're in. And again, a lot of those kids were young kids and kids that were defensive kids. So we'll try to keep them low. I try to talk to them about nipple to knee and the stance that you're taking. But we'll go step, stance, step, stance, and then the 5th, it's either the 5th whistle or the 5th sound will be the snap sound, which we go on go. And so we'll do an on step, a fire step, which is like a zone step, a 45-degree angle step, a 90-degree angle step, and what we do is a trap step, which the centers don't do that, but when the guards run a fullback trap, we'll work on that. And again, that takes almost a month, maybe 2 months, to be able to rapid fire all those steps, where we can get 5 steps in within 10 minutes and get a group of 10 kids, 10 to 12 kids through all of that. But during the season, I cut the whistles down to 2 whistles, where I'll blow a whistle, they'll take a step, and then I'll blow it back, and they'll get back in their stance, and they'll just say go. So they'll be going. But if they don't step correctly, then everything's lost. If it's a bad step in the wing tee, if it's a bad step with the offensive line, they won't make the blocks, especially the smaller guards.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like I said, I just really enjoyed it because I've never seen it that in-depth teaching. Like obviously teams will bird dog stuff as a team, walk through stuff, and walk through plays, but just from a drill perspective up to that point, I'd kind of not seen that. Just for coaches, as we're talking, that it's essentially late April 2023 is when these videos were posted. If people are looking on coaches' Twitter.
Yeah, we haven't even started spring practice. All of that is probably a Tuesday or Thursday. The April stuff is a Tuesday or Thursday during the school day that we're not working out. We'll go down there and do some kind of agilities and things, but we get started on that early.
No, it's a great stuff. Now, I did want to ask you, because I saw there's a couple different pools you teach, and a lot of them, like, okay, they all make sense, but you typically, up until recently, hadn't seen a lot of wing tee teams teach skip pulling. And I know, especially on there, I saw some of your skip pull stuff, I think on the front side of your buck and a couple other things. Why have you gone that direction? Especially since that historically has not been how
Right.
wing tee.
Well, there's the guy that is our tackles tight end coach. He had been coaching the wing tee with Bob Christmas is a name that some people may know. Bob brought the wing tee to school in Georgia, and which had been perennial losers for a long time. And so he started skip pulling because it just felt easier. And so I started skip pulling, or asked our head coach Jason Tone about skip pulling to the split inside, because the traditional 3 steps to the split inside always put us past the guy that we were trying to kick. So we would end up having to come back inside of him, and a lot of times they would beat us. Being able to run the split in, the buck sweep to the split inside is huge. The problem is, can you find a halfback that's going to block a 5 technique? In 2020, we had good blocking running backs. So we started skip pulling so that we could get in. All you really have to do is get around the tackle and around the trash that the halfback could cause by allowing the 5 technique to run upfield. But our halfbacks were so good, we could just skip pull, and it was a lot quicker, and we were on a better angle. Now, we still traditionally do the 3 steps to the tight end side, but Camden, who just beat Mill Creek, which was a top 10 team in the United States, they skip pull all of theirs to the tight inside, split inside. And the reason they do it is they were asking Auburn offensive line coach who coached with Malzone, why do you skip pull? And he said, well, because it's easier. And so I said, okay. So we're going to start doing it. But it is a little bit easier. After, the more athletic kids, it kind of gets their shoulders turned a little bit quicker, and so that they can head downhill and kick out the contained guy. Yeah. But we still traditionally do the 3 steps to the tight end side.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that too. Like, I mean, like, obviously all this is on there, but like, I mean, there's a lot of pulling. Like I said, there's a front side skip pull, but then you see the backside pulling, which is a lot of traditional pulling there, and so forth.
Now, on our pull and wall, we'll skip pull to the split inside. If there's just a tackle there, we're going to skip pull to it. So we'll, just like the zone teams, we're going to skip pull to that side, but we're going to traditional pull and wall with a 90-degree angle step if there's a tight end, if we have a tight
end. Okay. Now I have two more questions for you before we get off here. Like your double teams, like, because I've had a lot of conversations, and because of a variety of reasons. One thing I'm looking at a lot more power stuff and how to clean up some of our buck sweep, pin and pull, whatever you want to call it, stuff. Like for this purpose, it's buck sweep, but you talk to anybody who takes a snap out of the shotgun and they'll call it pin and pull. It's a semantics. I know there's small differences, but it's like arguing me over the difference between a 3-3 and a 3-5. It's semantics to me after a certain point. But like when you look at like your post lead versus a zero technique, that double team almost looks like more of a horizontal double team.
Yes.
And a vertical double team. You want to kind of talk about that for a second, because I've been looking a lot more at horizontal double teams this off season instead of vertical, and kind of why you teach it that way or look at it that way.
You know, nobody's ever taught me exactly why we horizontal double team, but this is what I tell the kids. Okay, in our Delaware offense, the one hole is the wing back. So if we're running a 20, well, we would call it on our power, we run 31. Okay, so if we're going to run behind that wing back, we need to open that hole horizontally. We don't want to open it vertically. So that is why we want to, we want to open it, because he is the hole. That's what I tell the kids. The one hole's right here. Well, coach, there's not a hole there. There's a person. But when we make this block this way, this is how we open the hole. So, and on our traps, we want to open the hole for the fullback, because he's hitting it vertically, right behind him where the center goes. So when we're running power, we want to run behind the wing back, and that's where the hole wants to open. I don't know if that's probably the best answer, but that's the best answer that I give the kids.
Okay.
That the hole is not the gap in between you guys. The hole is when you do your block and it moves people horizontal.
That makes sense. I mean, and I'm just curious. Everybody does it for a different reason, and just kind of how they teach it, why they teach it. I did slightly lie. Now I have 2 more questions. Just because I remembered one that I didn't write down that I remember I was going to ask you anyways. I like asking coaches this, especially when you're in I don't want to say system offense, because that's such a terrible term. Like, I hate it because you're pigeonholing people. But in the wing tee stuff you do, what is your favorite play to install? Like, it doesn't have to be your most successful. Which play do you have the most fun when it's called, teaching, when you see it score? What play in your wing tee system do you enjoy, and why?
Well,
I see. This is why I love doing. This is why I love doing it.
As the guards and centers coach, I want to run track. Yeah, if it's 3rd and 12, I'm on the headsets, traps there, trap. When in doubt, run track. So I really like trap. And let me go back to another reason we block horizontally. Like when we run trap, if we move, say they're in an odd front, and we move the head up nose guard horizontally, now though we still have the tackle, the tight end, and the wing back to get linebackers. So we don't have to worry about the only linebacker we have to worry about is the A-gap backside A-gap linebacker. And when we work the horizontal, the block, our center is just posting up the nose guard, and he'll look backside. We work on that. He looks backside for the backside run through of the linebacker. So, a horizontal blocks, we have the extra people there in order to pick up linebackers instead of having to, like double team drive, and then one of them, whoever needs to come off to the linebacker comes off. We've already got 3 extra guys coming off to the linebackers.
Yeah.
But I do like trap. When in doubt, run trap. I know our JV coach. He was his first year. He's a young guy. It's his first year calling plays, and it was like 4th and 20, and on one of the JV games, and he called trap, and the kid ran for a touchdown. He said, "Coach, I learned that from you. When in doubt, run trap." 4th and 20. You can't, and nobody's looking for trap. But we work hard on trap. Like when we get out of our steps, we have a three-day progression that we go through. So like on Monday, we'll do buck sweep, and then we'll go to trap, and we'll go to midline. And I tell our kids, we win our games during this trap time. And it may look very simple. Some of the drills looks very simple, and that's the very beginning of trap. But when we're working in August, it is full speed. People are moving around, and they're having to make calls, and it's really fast. And the kids are having to go hard. Whereas some of those drills, it's one at a time.
Yeah.
When we do trap and we do our plays, under there we have the center and both guards under the chute, and either 2 or 3 dummies in front of them, and we're going as fast as we can go.
Yeah. Now I'll say 2 things on that. Back to your not worrying about linebackers. I've found the more I talk to people about horizontal double teams, because of the horizontal double team, and especially since a lot of teams, when they run horizontal double teams, it's more of an A-gap play anyways. Linebackers are just overrunning the play because they're taught pull is probably a wider play most of the time outside trap, and just with how just the berth it opens up in terms of gap if you get a wash like you're supposed to. And 2, you sound like me my last year at Fairborn as an assistant. We were a wing T team, and I would constantly chirp trap, especially when I would go down after we were done with varsity film to our Saturday JV games, and I would just chirp at our JVOC to just run trap constantly. And it's just hilarious. I joke with them to this day about it. Like, and there's a lot of times 3rd and 8 trap, like, and you get it, and like it's just funny. As a wing T coach, that is usually the response, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah, you're right about them overrunning, because if you watch our pull and wall drills, we're going to pull and wall and look inside, because that's what good teams, you have to be able to do against good teams. They're going to scrape that backside linebacker or frontside linebacker is going to scrape off that tight end, and he's going to fit right there. But a lot of times, our backside guards, they're going to kick also. The front side guard's going to kick, the backside guard's going to kick, and then boom, it's wide open because people are overrunning the play.
All right. And then my last question for you is we mentioned it at the beginning. I mean, you have over 30 years of coaching experience. And to be honest, in two of the better football states. Like, I mean, you look at the short list of high school coaching and coach. I mean, it's Florida, Ohio, Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, California, and Pennsylvania are usually on that short list of states with talent and coaching. And so as somebody who has that experience in both South Carolina and Georgia and longtime assistant and coaching the wing team and coaching defense, do you have any words of wisdoms, thoughts, anything for young coaches, whether it be position coaches, head coaches, doesn't really matter. Just anything kind of part your 30 years of experience on to younger coaches?
Well, there's always something to learn. Like I said, try to watch as much videos as you can. Try to, I know the day is a lot shorter than it was 30 years ago. But try to go to as much clinics as you can. Try to watch as much as you can. Try to be flexible. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one position. Learn to coach other positions. And learning to coach other positions is like a new life in coaching. And after 20 so many years of coaching just defense, I either needed to get out or needed to get on offense and try something new. And don't worry about whether you're an assistant coach has as much influence over his young men and is as much as important as to the team as the defensive coordinator or any other coach.
Well, coaches, follow this man on Twitter. Like I said, he posts some good stuff. I'm assuming he'll probably post more stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
I try to post as much as I'm allowed to post. So Coach gets a little nervous. He says, one, I'm interviewing for another job, and two, he doesn't want anybody to know what we're doing. But but it's at Coach Quinn 1. And if you have any questions, I'm always welcome to try to help you.
Oh yeah, Coach
Stone is going to be in Indianapolis clinic. He's going to also speak at Charlotte clinic, but he'll be up there in Indianapolis, and he's doing 5 sessions. Okay. So if I don't know how far that is from you, or some of your friends up there, maybe a little bit closer to him, but he does a great job. And he's going to be
Coach, I will be in Indianapolis tomorrow. It is way too close. No offense, but I hate driving to Indianapolis. It's not anything wrong with Indianapolis. I just have been there so much because of my wife's doctor specialist that it's between here and there. It's just so flat, the drive, and it is miserable at this point for me. But that's a whole nother conversation. Like I said,
he gave me or another coach an opportunity to go to Indianapolis or Charlotte, and he said, "Well, I'm gonna let the Coach so and so go first, since he was here first in the morning." It was in the morning, and he said, "Well, I guess I'll go to Indianapolis," and I was like, "Yeah." So I don't have to ride 10 hours or buy a flight.
Yeah. I'd much rather go to Charlotte. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. That is funny. But like I said, coaches, give him a follow. Like I said, he mentioned his, but it'll also be in the bio. If you're looking for those drills, like I said, April 2023. Like, share, subscribe, all that lovely jazz. Check out our sponsor, Coachpad, all that jazz. Otherwise, I think that's it. Thank you for watching our episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.